at the college party this afternoon?
Well, we got colors to at the same time,
Oh,
so I don't know how,
you gonna do that?
well, and there's, I don't know.
Yeah.
But last night after we got home about 8:30 and then, I'm like, oh, I'm
You ready to go, Bill?
bed. It was like
Just a minute.
a
You're about
nephew
to rinse the tire, this way on
and
it.
his wife, and they stayed till, I don't know, 10.
You don't have a wrench in your back
And then
pocket?
by the time I was
Well, you two are not
overtired
in
and I
there.
couldn't get to sleep and
I'm ready. Let me close this door first.
we'll see what today has in store.
I'm never that tired.
He can't go to sleep.
I can relax and sit there watching TV and I just doze off.
Well, if I was sitting, but my problem was I hadn't stopped.
Oh,
and then it
okay.
takes
Well, I'm ready, Bill.
Okay, I'm ready.
Rushing you?
Just because it's 9 o'clock or 9:03.
I'm waiting, Bill.
Well, the herd is still downstairs, see, so we'll wait for them. By this time next week, I should have my new glasses, so I don't have to switch back and forth.
Awesome.
'Cause it's,
We're good.
thanks. I told the doctor he'd give me that eye exam, and I said, you know, I don't mind not wearing my glasses if I could just read. Because I can see good enough without them, I just can't.
That up close stuff.
Yeah. I used to laugh at people that did that. Now I laugh with them.
The eye doctor I worked for back when I was young, and he would have me do a lot of the little stuff. And he says, I just don't see that. And I'm like, but you got glasses on.
That's right.
Never did understand that, and now I fully understand.
That's right. Because I had LASIK surgery done, I think it was 04 or something, and when we moved here, I didn't wear my glasses. But then it got to the point that I couldn't read anything, you know. It's all right as long as you didn't have to look at anything, or tape measure, or read a book or something. Then I decided that maybe I should get some with the bifocals.
I have them all over the house. I usually just.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I had a pair that I used at the computer, which are kind of a blue shade, and it takes some of the glare away,
Oh,
but
yeah.
they had lost them. So I got a new computer, new CPU, and we pulled the other desk out and cleaned behind it. Oh, there they are down there. But see, they're the same color as the floor, and you couldn't see them till you got the broom to sweep everything out.
Our daughter will take her glasses off when she goes to bed, and then she can't see to find her glasses.
Yeah.
They can be right by her.
My Uncle Tom is like that. It's like he puts them right there. So when he wakes up, they're right there. I remember my grandma walking around one morning. We lived in the farm down the basement. She just fretted, you know, fumed. It just, something was wrong. She said, I can't find my glasses. My sister said, I think they're on your head, Grandma. Oh, yeah, there they are.
And now we're kind of in that territory.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, it's,
Have them on your head and you think, well, I don't want to forget these, so I take them off, put them on the seat, and then I set
yeah,
them.
that's right, yes. It's, with my sunglasses, the same thing. My head, it's like, they don't stay up there, so if sometimes I'll put them behind my head, which is great, except you, out of sight, out of mind.
We are human.
Yeah. I'm reminded of that every day.
God
Often.
has a sense of humor. For years, I liked to deer hunt, and inevitably it was raining, and I wore glasses, and I said, I need windshield wipers on the glasses.
I know.
And then I finally got the LASIK
Yes.
surgery or whatever, so I don't need to wear glasses anymore to deer hunt. I can't walk.
It's always something.
Yeah.
I know what, I wore glasses. We had a pastor's golf tournament every year, and there are a couple of guys who were really good golfers, but it's like, I would do it, but if it started raining, same thing, then you just can't see.
No.
And so my score would go straight downhill after that.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, Ken.
Well, I missed last week.
So did we.
I had every intention of being here. I got up and started to get dressed, and Then I just didn't. When I fell the first time and hit the floor in my living room, that I had a slight concussion. And I thought, oh, it's no big. Well, I was okay as long as I sat down or laid down, but as soon as I stand up and started doing anything, I didn't feel very good. So I texted Ray and Brad and said, I'm probably not going to be there today. And downstairs, Brad's teaching downstairs. You guys downstairs.
The voice of authority.
Yeah, they're going to have to.
I'm in Brett.
I've already tried those games. They're not going to be able to pull anything over on me. Yeah, and then I just sat down and laid around all day, which is
You probably needed that.
probably did. And then before the week was over, I fell outside, and I fell on my face, but the ground is a lot softer than the oak floor in my living room. But so most of this week I just been trying to take it easy. And
And that's because you knew from personal experience.
yes, yeah. But you'd think, it's like history. They say the only thing we learn from history is that we don't learn from history. And that's the thing about personal experience. The only thing you really learn from that is that you didn't learn anything last time. I've been trying to take care of myself. Move slower and watch where I'm walking.
Did you, have you been to the doctor to see if it's your blood pressure or
It's not my blood pressure.
sugar?
It's my sugar was fine. First thing I do if I get is I take my blood pressure. I've never had one over 200, but if it was close to that, I think, oh, that might be it. Or sometimes it would get down to 90, but that's not. When I get below 100, I won't be able to function. So it was good, but. I told yesterday, Marilee came home again yesterday. She was in the hospital for 2 days, but there was nurses, and I said, ladies, I want to give you a piece of advice. Don't get old. I said, nothing good happens when you start getting older.
It's not for sissies.
We're supposed to get wiser, but it's like, I'm not even sure that's true.
I found that senility comes along with age.
Yeah, at least the opportunity to be humble. And we're at the point, Beth won't leave me alone. She wants to do everything. Well, you can't do that. Let me put your shoes on. I don't know. You can't. Let me. Which is wonderful in one sense, except I'm tired of it already, and it just started. I told her yesterday, I said, you're going to have to let me do some stuff. She said, well, if you'll go slow, because that's the problem when I get in a hurry. Because I've always been in a hurry, and it worked fine. But
You and Mom used to sit together and talk.
yeah.
She'll listen more than Isha, she will me.
Yes, it's like, it's kind of the way it is, isn't it? I used to talk to my mother and dad's out stuff too, and they never paid any attention. It kind of frustrated me, but now I understand. So we're in James chapter 1 still. And we got down into ask of God, if you like wisdom, let him ask of God who gives all men liberally. And we tried to define wisdom as seeing life from God's point of view. Not necessarily knowledge and understanding to make the right decision, but to see all those decisions from God's point of view. Which is hard, because usually God's point of view and my point of view are not, they may be parallel, but they're not going to intersect. And but we need to learn, if that's a problem, ask God and he will help us see that. And the picture is Moses and Israel in the wilderness, Israel saw what was happening right now. And Moses kind of had the bigger picture of what was going on and where they were going to end up being. And most of the big mistakes that Israel made in the wilderness, and there were some big ones, were because they were looking at the right now in this situation, and they were not being able to understand what God was trying to do.
Kind of reminds me of the Israelites when Jesus Christ was there.
Yep, same thing.
Same thing. They were looking at, you gotta take care of these people that are beating down on us right now. Well, he took care of them, but not the way they thought it was going.
Yeah, it's
I'm not in their time
it's
frame.
kind of just it's just the way that we are as human beings. See, and God knew that. That's why in the beginning, Adam and Eve ate of the knowledge of good and evil, and they began to be able to know what to tell the difference between right and wrong and make those decisions. I believe that God, from the beginning, He was going to do that for us, so we wouldn't have to make that decision. But now then, look where we are, and so God took them out of the garden. They didn't want to eat of the tree of life in that condition, and so we've been that way since the beginning. And it's hard not to be like that, but we need as Christians to learn to try to see things as God sees them. God always sees the big picture. I hit my thumb with a hammer. My thoughts are, I want that to stop hurting right now. And if you've ever done that, that doesn't happen right away. I think the worst I hit myself with a hammer, we were using a framing hammer, I got the little serrated edges. And I was going to whip that nail in one swat. But I hit my finger in one swat. Really tore it up. So you'd have thought I'd learned, but I didn't. And so we just learn to need to see things from God's point of view. God has our best interests at heart, and sometimes when you have your best interest of your child in heart, there are sometimes you make them do things that they don't like. It might even hurt them. Sometimes we take them to the doctor and they get a shot. Some kids, that's not a big deal. Others, it's trauma. When Beth was she wasn't even a year old yet, we went in and maybe it was her year-old shots, and the nurse, do you notice that doctors never give shots? It's the nurses. So the kids love the doctors, but they hate nurses. And so the nurse came in and she drew a little bunny rabbit on her circle with a couple ears on her leg, and then she took that needle and put it in there. Beth reached down and yanked it and pulled it out. Surprised everybody, and it was much more difficult to get it back in the second time than it was the first time. Because it hurt, and God sometimes has to do things that slap our hands or...
Then I went into the dentist. I reached up and grabbed him, and he goes, nope, he gets a pill before he comes back next time. I'd have a tranquilizer before I get back in the chair.
Yeah.
So I can relate to your story very well.
And even though it's for our own good, there are sometimes things that we just... God is like that. He sees the big picture. Not this. If I do this and I make you go through this, when you get to the other side, it's going to be much better. But we need to ask God, let me see this situation from your point of view. And it says that if we ask in faith that He's going to grant that. Sometimes He doesn't give us the whole big picture, but He will see maybe this instance right here that we're going through. I'm going to let you know how this works into my big plan. Romans 8:28 says that all things work together for good to those who love God, are called according to His purpose. It does not say that all things are good. All things work together for good. I've used the story of my mother let me bake a cake help her bake a cake, and I got to taste everything. And the sugar was great, and the cocoa wasn't too bad. But now the vanilla and the flour, I don't need to taste the egg. I've seen those before. But when you put it all together and you bake it, it tastes pretty good. And so that's our life. God is dealing with us. Everything in our life is not good, but all of it works together for good and to bring us to what He wants us to be. So we need to ask God to help us when situations happen. Lord, why are you doing this to me? Well, He'll never answer that question. I know, I've asked. But we need to say, Lord, how does this fit into your big plan? How do I fit into your big plan? And if you do that, he'll give you some sort of an answer as far as that goes. Probably won't take the,
You're talking about the testing and the
yeah,
the trials and stuff.
he probably
You know,
won't take the,
It talks about us being refined like gold or
Yes.
silver has been refined. And I thought, I listened to a guy on James this week, and he was interesting on the refining. He says, well, you do realize how a silversmith, he refines that gold, heats it up a certain temperature, then he moves off the stuff, and then he might do it again. And how does he tell when it's ready to go? He can look in it and see his picture.
see the bottom.
See his image, he
So,
says.
yeah.
Think about it, if we're refined, what is God looking down at? He's looking at an image of us. I thought that was an awful interesting
Yeah, it's,
analogy.
the Bible uses the gold and silver being refined as sort of what God's doing with us.
And
And,
you can see, you probably see yourself in the gold too.
but it's, like if you find a gold nugget, let me know where you got it. But if you
Yeah.
find one and you take it, they're not going to say, oh, good, that's here. I'm going to give you this much money for it. They're going to put it in the heat and melt it down and get rid of all the dross, as it's called, to get rid of all the bad stuff. And then they're going to test it to see how pure it is. And God does the same thing with us. And so now in James chapter 1, verse 9. Let the lowly brother glory in his exaltation. Does that go together? Let the lowly, and exaltation. It's not the way that we see it, is it? It just contributes. Let the brother glory in his exaltation, but the rich in his humiliation, because as a flower of the field, he will pass away. For no sooner has the sun risen with the burning heat than it withers the grass, its flower falls, its beautiful appearance perishes. So the rich man also will fade away in his pursuits. If you read through some of the things in the New Testament about the rich and poor, you almost think that all rich men, it's bad to be rich. But that's not the point he's trying to make. The rich he's speaking of has more to do with their attitude towards God and towards other people. There's nothing, it doesn't say money's the root of all evil. It says the love of money is the root of all evil. And so there's nothing wrong with having money. It's just what are you going to do with it? Jameson's got it figured out. Elon Musk has $200 billion or something. He said, he could give everybody in the world $1 billion, and then there'd still be money left. I thought, well, that's true. I'm guessing he won't, but I mean, it's possible that he could do that. Because there's about 8 billion people in the world now? So he could do that and still have money left over. What are we doing with our money? I mean, why do we have it? I was proud of Jameson that he said that. And then I thought, you're very naive because that's just not the way it works. It should. God blesses us so that we can do what? Bless other people. Sometimes in that light, I think sometimes people suffer and do without because God's giving us the opportunity to help take care of them. It has really nothing to do with them. It has to do more with us. And so he said, the lowly in that he is exalted, and the rich in that he is humiliated, because your riches are going to fade away, as we've seen. I mean, if you go to the cemetery and you look at all those gravestones and read those things, you can't tell whether they're rich or poor. I mean, you don't have any idea. Except sometimes you see this gigantic monument. It's like they had more money than they know what to do with. But once we're dead, we're all the same. We're all on equal footing then. And so God will exalt us, being lowly in the Lord. Then verse number 12, blessed is the man who endures temptation. Man, he starts right there, doesn't he? For when he has been approved, or when he's been tried, he will receive the crown of life which the Lord has promised to those who love him. There are like 7 crowns it talks about in the New Testament and in Revelation that we receive when we're in heaven. And, and this is the crown of life. When you're tempted, we endure, that you receive the crown of life. It's not that when we get to heaven, we're going to walk around with our bag of crowns and show everybody, be proud of them. It says that we're going to come a time that we're going to cast our crowns at Jesus' feet. Everyone's just throwing a big pile at his feet. But it'd be nice to have one to throw. But that's not for me, but so that I'll have something to worship the Lord and praise Him when we get there. So, for when this man has been approved or he's gone through this, he will receive the crown of life which the Lord promised to those who love Him. Let no one say when he is tempted, I am tempted by God. For God cannot be tempted by evil, nor does He Himself tempt anyone. We need to understand that if you're tempted, God didn't tempt you. He may have allowed you to have been tempted, but He didn't do it. Because very plainly, God doesn't tempt anyone. Sometimes we think that surely God did this, but no. James explains, he says, each one of us is tempted for God cannot be tempted, nor does He tempt anyone else. But each of us is tempted when we are drawn away by our own desires and enticed. Then when desire has conceived, it gives birth to sin, and sin when it's full grown brings forth death. So when I sin, it's not because of God. Because I am enticed. I have a desire. And I kind of, this is what God says. And I like this over here better. And so I step over there and we begin to follow that. And then when we get that, we're enticed, and then we sin. And if you leave sin alone, what happens? For the wages of sin is death. The ultimate result of sin in the world or in our lives is death. Now, when Jesus Christ died on the cross and we've become His children and we're in Him, He took that death away. So we don't have to worry about that part. But God's blessing on our lives can be taken away because what? We're drawn away of our own lusts. And then when we get there, we're enticed. And when we're enticed, my home pastor had a thing in his study that said, I can resist anything but temptation. That's kind of the way it is. There's certain things that if you have diabetes, you're supposed to stay away from. And I'm to the point now, nothing tastes good. The only thing that really tastes good are things I'm not supposed to eat. The only thing in my mind that I'd like to have, it's never something good, is always something, I need a piece of pie, I need a donut. Never I need celery or carrots, even though I like those, but it's just that's, and that's kind of the way this sin is that we have a desire and we begin to follow that desire, and what happens? We begin, and if you let it go and don't do anything about it, the end of that is death. You don't have to eat a certain way. God made all food and He made it all good. I don't have to follow any doctor's instructions or even common sense. I don't have to. But what happens when we don't? We reap the results of that. My dad used to say sometimes, this hurts me worse than it does you. I wanted to say, but I never did. Then why are you so cruel to yourself? Because that would not have gone over well. But sometimes that's kind of the way it is, isn't it? We want to do what we want to do, and so we do it, and then we suffer for it, and it's like, God, what did you do? Well, He didn't do it. He just let us go ahead and do what we wanted to do, and then now you see why I told you not to do that. He told Adam and Eve not to eat of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and when they did, and He put them out of the garden, He saw they got the results, the repercussions, because now then, the ground's going to give up thorn and weeds, and you're going to have to work hard to make things grow. When you're going to Ottumwa on 34, there's those, just after you turn off at T61, there's those two fields that are low. And last year they had corn in them. And they put stuff in their crop, so to kill all the weeds and stuff when they're doing all that. And I thought as I go by there, look how it's overgrown in weeds in such a short time. You always can't get rid of that stuff. When left to our own selves and our own desires and our own choices, what happens? We're just like that field we grew up in weeds. And so we need to say, Lord, I know that you didn't do this, but I had a desire, and I went over there and I attempted, and when I drawn away of my own lust. Verse number 16, do not deceive, my beloved brethren. Every gift and every perfect gift is from above, comes down from the Father of light, which there is no variation or shadow of turning. There's no favoritism. Of his own will he brought us forth by the word of truth, that we might be the kind of first fruits of his creatures. It doesn't say that good gifts, perfect gifts come from God. It says every good gift comes from God. I've received some good gifts from people sometimes that wasn't what I wanted. It may have been what I needed.
You might not think it's good now.
Right, but it was exactly.
Plan somewhere along the line, and you don't want to wait for that plan to see good. We want to see good instant.
My dad let me know sometimes that the good that he was doing was for my own good, but I wasn't exactly at that point in time convinced of it. But he let me know that this is what's best for you. I wanted to play in the street, and as I got older, we did, because there's no place else to play. But when you're young, you don't play in the street. I got thumped a couple times for playing in the street.
When the food that you were talking about, eat good food. Well, you don't think that's good for you until later it's good.
Yeah, it's so.
About the interesting part here. You read 17, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah. And the Father's light, with whom there is no variant. In other words, there's no shadows in that light.
Yeah.
In other words, he has no shadows. I read in another spot, similar verse, and he has no shadows, nothing. When you're in him, when you're following him, you're in the light, the pure light. The devil's in the darkness. He has shadows and things, but God does not have those.
Yeah, and there's no favoritism when God deals. I mean, every gift is good. Sometimes we think that we can't do much because I'm just one person. We went down on, some of you may have been there, in those caves they have down in Kentucky. There's signs all over. One year we got off and went down there, and you go in this cave, and there's you and a bunch of other people and the guides in front of you, and there are lights on the walls, and you go down and down and down and down. I'm not fond of caves. This wasn't too bad because there was a rail and a sidewalk going down. I'm not one of those going to crawl in a hole just to see what's back there.
You know that hole over there? I know.
That's right. So we went down, we got down to basically the bottom of the trip, and they turned off all the lights. Now that was dark. Then the guy lit a match. It's amazing how much light that match put off. And all that dark. And that's us. We may not be big, we may not feel we're not important, but we live in the darkness, the dark world, and our light will lighten and illumine a lot of people if we'll just let it. And then he blew the match out before they turned the lights back on. But even though there was a rail and a sidewalk, I don't know that I want to try to walk out of that thing in that black. It's black. And so with God, he's the light. He's the Father of lights, and we walk in light. My mother was notorious for moving furniture. It's like you'd go to school and you come home and the whole living room and dining room were rearranged. It's like, okay, it's fine. But what happened, when you got up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom and she'd rearrange things, you sometimes found yourself tripping over a chair that wasn't there before, or the couch or something, and oh, ouch! Why? Because it was dark. If I turned the light on, it's amazing how easy it was. And so that's what the picture he's trying to make here is we live in the light. And there's no variableness, there's no change, there are no shadows, there's no favoritism. Every gift comes from God, and they're all good when they come from him, even though sometimes...
And the big point of the whole light and dark is there's only two sides.
Right.
You got your choice. There's the light and there's the dark.
Yeah. You can either choose to walk.
There's no in between, no shadow in between or nothing that you could harbor in and still be safe.
You can either walk in darkness or walk in light. Now, personally, I find it easier to walk in light than to walk in darkness. And so that all those gifts come from God. Then down in verse number 19. So then, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, and slow to wrath. That ought to be a motto that we stick up on our dashboard and on our refrigerators and stamp it on our foreheads. Slow to speak, swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath. What is it like normally in our life? Almost upside down, isn't it? We're slow to hear.
Yeah, but usually we're angry at something and then we lash out about it. We need to take that anger and hold it and think about it and speak.
So it's slow to speak, slow to wrath,
Speak late.
swift to hear.
How fast did you think or say when you hit your thumb with the hammer?
There you go. Right there.
I didn't
There's
say
the
anything.
answer.
I didn't say anything except ouch. I said that really hurt, and I was right. It did. It really hurt.
But still, that was instant.
Oh yeah, I didn't think about it. I didn't have to say that. So what should I say? Whether it's going to hurt or not. I was rebuilding an engine on my car in North Carolina. The couple families in our church, they had a tour bus company, and so they had buses, and they had everything. And so they pulled my engine, we worked on it, and it was a 1989 Chrysler LeBaron State convertible. And we've got new parts. They even had that thing you put your hands in, and that it shoots and makes it all clean and everything. And we're putting them in, and I was tightening something one time, and as you know, it's prone to happen in those situations, that the wrench slipped off of the nut, and I banged my knuckles. And there was this moment of silence as those men who were in my church and Christians just looked at me. And I said, "Oh, that hurt." And it was amazing. I didn't think about it at the time, is that statement in that situation had such an effect on them. And to me, it's because I just don't swear. My grandpa, who did sometimes, he said the only reason people swear is because they're not smart enough to know what right they really ought to say. And so, that was one of those deals that I didn't think about it because it just hurt. And, take the skin off down to the bone. It was really exciting. So we need to be swift to hear. Someone was talking the other day. I was talking to someone. And they said, "Are you listening?" I said, "Well, I hear you. I don't know that I'm listening." And then that's what it is. I'm a good listener in that I'll hear everything you say. A bad listener in that all the time you're talking about, I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to fix it, how I'm going to make it better. What should I do? What can I have you do to make that whole situation better? That's not really a good listener. But he said, be swift to hear. Most of us, that's not our first inclination when something comes up or whatever. I don't want to hear what you have to say. I just want to do this. Swift to hear, slow to speak. There was a time, I'm going to turn the air conditioner up a little bit. Are you getting hot?
Yeah, I looked at it. It's on 72. You can turn it down.
Yeah.
Turn it down to like 70 as far as I'm concerned.
Yes. Because it's starting to get warmer outside. But there was a summer, I guess, I don't know, at least for a month in one summer, maybe longer, when I was about 15 or 16. I was talking back to my mother, and she said, "You need to stop that." So I did. For about the next 3 weeks, I didn't say anything to anybody. And at first, it was kind of funny. But towards the end of it, it got to be not funny from my parents' point of view. I wasn't rebellious. I just decided not to say anything. That's not what he's talking about here. But swift to hear and slow to speak. In other words, think about what you're going to say before you say it, instead of, "Ooh, man, maybe I shouldn't have said that," which is what most of us do most of the time. I wish I hadn't said that. But we listen, and then we think about the response. Because what have we said before? That mostly the first normal reaction is almost 99% always the wrong one. Even though that's what we do sometimes, if we'd have thought about it, we might have done something else. And so, swift to hear, slow to speak, and if we do that, then we're going to be very slow to get angry. My Uncle Donald was a big man. He was about Ray's size. And he didn't get angry very often. And if he did, it took a long time to get there. But when he did, he was really angry. And you didn't want to be around him when he got to that point, because when he got to that point, he was basically out of control. And so he was really slow to wrath, but when he got there, we need to be at the point that we just listen, think about what we're going to say, and if you do that, you know what happens? The anger part and the wrath part usually goes away.
You start thinking logically, what do I say to this person? I don't want to alienate this person. You start working on it. And by the time you might have something decent to say about it. One of my favorite verses, and we talked about it last time when I spoke, is that Ephesians 4:32. In our relationships with people, it says, be kind, tender-hearted, and forgiving, even as God, for Christ's sake, hath forgiven you. Now, if you listen quickly and you don't say anything till you thought about it, you probably end up being kind. If we don't, we're going to be something else. But our motto is be kind, tender-hearted, forgiving. That's how we're supposed to be living. And we can do that if we let the Lord lead us. Well, last time I was really mad. Well, had really got stirred up. Somebody was trying to make me mad enough.
Yeah.
And really pulling every button. And I just had to take a break. I just walked in the other room. Pray to God. I went back and told him, we can't agree on this, and we're gonna have to just move on. And I became super calm. I don't know why, but I know why. I asked him.
Yeah.
He gave me the calmness, and that's part of it. And if you are angry, you need to step away and talk to God.
Yeah.
He'll calm you down. He calmed me down like bang. I was calm.
Yeah, it's amazing how some people know just what to say,
Oh yeah.
what to do.
I've got an oldest son that used to know. I shouldn't know that. But he used to pull my ex-wife's buttons. He knew just the buttons to say and what to say to her to make her mad.
Yeah, and
And one day, I come home and he had been pulling her buttons. She come to the door and says, get out of here, blah, 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 blah. I'm not gonna go through all what that was, but anyway, it was quite a little bit. I said, well, that door, just don't let it hit you on the way out.
Okay.
And she left, because she was telling me she was going out the door. I went in and talked to that boy. I said, well, when are you gonna get another mother?
that's right.
You get another one of those? How long do you think you're gonna have to live with this?
Yeah,
And he starts talking, is your relationship always gonna be like this? You better figure out how to get along with that woman. You're only gonna get one mother in this life. When she's 60 and you're taking care of her in a nursing home, you better figure out how to get along.
You maybe go to 70 or 80. 60 is not very young.
Yeah, well,
Very old.
yeah. Anyway, sorry. I'm 60. I shouldn't do it. Anyway.
60's the new middle age.
But-
That's exactly right.
From there on, he made an assertive effort to get along with his mother. And if I would have acted super rationally, unrationally when I walked in and screamed at the kid and screamed at her and screamed and screamed and screamed, would anything come out of that? Absolutely not.
You'd have been walking out the door.
But I thought about it after I've seen her when I got in there. I go, I need to talk to this boy.
Yeah.
And I did talk to him, and that was probably a turning point in their relationship. He got along with her quite well after that.
My
Not that he didn't laugh and wink at me and say, yeah, Mom's doing this, but he knew what to do then. And, you know, we all need to think about that when we come to people that aggravate us. Be prepared.
It's kind of like the,
Because there are people that know how to push your buttons.
kind of like the Forrester Sisters song, you know, you can't live with them and you can't shoot them.
Yeah. So you need to learn how to get along with
Yeah.
everybody. The church needs to get along. But the Bible talks about the church needs to get along. We're not all going to be of the same exact mind when it comes to little bitty things, but we need to have the big picture of Jesus Christ and His salvation in our hearts.
Yeah, we are a picture to the world of what Christ is like. And I know churches that that picture's not very good. It's
No,
like, if that's what Jesus is like, then I don't want to have anything to do with it.
Yeah, the world, religious, okay, I'll call it, there's Jesus' church and then there's the religious community.
Yeah. So,
Okay, and Jesus' church should have it right. They should be really living by the Bible, following Jesus Christ.
we,
But the religious tends to make their own rules. In this world, as Ray has talked to me, and I know by looking at things, is the churches are usually ran by whatever kind of organization that the country has. In dictatorships, it's a dictatorship in the church. In democracy, it's a voting thing. We vote in this church. It's a theocracy, isn't that it?
yeah, that's
We
what,
are with God.
when God's
Yeah, I
in
think I got
charge.
the term right. And it's not a voting thing. God's the top dog.
Yeah.
Jesus is who's head of this church. But He only has righteousness in mind.
Yeah.
So, what do we need to worry about voting for?
Yeah. If we need to be swift to hear, slow to speak, and slow to
Okay, I got
wrath.
off on a long subject, sorry.
Yeah. For the wrath of man does not produce the righteousness of God. Well, there's no truer statement in the Bible than that. Never have I heard somebody get really mad and it showed the righteousness of God.
Yeah.
You know, now, Jesus got angry a couple times
Oh, yeah,
when he went to the-
money changers out.
when he went to the temple. And it wasn't so much the fact that they were selling pigeons, or so much the fact that they were changing money. The problem was the fact that they were charging exorbitant rates. Now that you gave them $1, they gave you 100 pennies. But you gave them $1 and they kept 50 of them because that's what it cost for them to do business. That was the problem there, that selling tapes in the church is nothing, and there's nothing wrong with that. People come, singers or speakers come and they have CDs or something. There's nothing wrong with setting up a table and selling those. They're not making this a house of merchandise. They're trying to get at the message of Christ out. I know churches that won't do that. In the South, there are a lot of Southern Baptist churches, and most of the Southern Baptist churches have a big kitchen. And usually on Wednesday nights, but sometimes other times, they serve meals, but they expect people to pay for those meals. So as a reaction to that, most of the independent churches, they don't have kitchens because they don't want to do that. The problem's not the kitchen. Come on in, folks. The problem's not the kitchen. It's the attitude and what you're doing with it and why you're doing it, you know. But we as human beings have the tendency to always choose the thing that's most obvious and be against that, even though it may have nothing to do with what's really going on. And so he said that we need to be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath. Therefore, lay aside all filthiness. This is your homework for this week. Lay aside all filthiness and wickedness, and receive with meekness the implanted word which is able to save your souls. Be doers of the word and not hearers only. If anyone is a hearer of the word and not a doer, he's like a man observing his natural face in a mirror. He observes himself, goes away, and immediately forgets what kind of man he was. I have that issue. I'll go in the mirror and I'll fix my hair, or I'll put my tie on or whatever, and I think, did I do that right? Now today, with all the things that have been going on in our house this week, I had to go make sure, look in the mirror, make sure I had everything on I was supposed to have on. I had on pants and shoes and all that stuff because there's a possibility and a chance that I might have forgot something. But we need to not be like that, but we need to lay aside filthiness, wickedness, and receive with meekness the word which is able to save our souls. Be doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving our own selves. Boy, it's so much easier to be a hearer than a doer. Isn't it? So much easier to hear what we're supposed to do than it is to do it. He said, but he who looks into the perfect law of liberty and continues in it is not a forgetful hearer, but a doer of the work, one that will be blessed in what he does. In other words, sometimes we look into the word and we are listening, but we don't really remember it, or we're not looking at it for the right reason, and therefore we forget. Sometimes, I've probably been known to do this. Someone gives us a list of rules, and I read every one of them. Not so that I know what they are. See if I can find something, a loophole or something left out. And then I say, Bill, that's not what you're supposed to be doing. But I mean, it's just the way that I am. We got this cancer drug from Marilee, and it came with a pamphlet about that big of what you're supposed to do and not do. You're not supposed to touch either hands or wash your hands or use rubber gloves. I thought, who wants to put that in their body if that's just the capsules that dangerous? Tim, you want to move that chair so she can sit there? Thank you.
Pretty good this week. I put 5 gallon, picked up a 12-gallon bucket of gas and poured it in the lawn. It didn't hurt, so, yeah.
But so, we sometimes we read the Bible, there's nothing there about that, I'm okay. That's not the attitude, that's not the goal, it's just to find something that we can agree with or doesn't disagree with what I want to do. The story's told of the gentleman. He didn't know what he ought to do, and so someone said, well, you need to read your Bible, and the Lord will tell you, speak to you, and teach you what you ought to do. So he went home, and he opened his Bible, and he just opened it and put his finger down and said, Judas went out and hanged himself. He said, well, that's not what I want to see. So he closed it, opened it again, put his finger down, and go and do thou likewise. So you can find anything in the Bible if you look, but we need to make sure that that's not why we're looking. We're looking that we might let the Word of God speak to us and teach us. Now, we're getting down to the end of this chapter, and some things here that talks about the fact that if any one of you seems to be religious, and we're going to talk about what it means to be truly religious or righteous. We're going to use the word righteous instead of religious. But don't forget your homework is to lay aside filthiness and overflow of wickedness and receive the word. Now, if you're successful with that, let me know when you come back next week, because I'm still working on it. All right? Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we're grateful for your goodness. We thank you that you loved us enough that you gave us pretty clear instructions of how we ought to live. Help us that we might listen and not just be hearers, we might be doers of the word, Lord. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Thank you.
So where did we finish up? The end of 1?
Not quite.
Not quite?
Number 26, we're going to start there.
26?
Yeah.
Okay, you're right to the end. Oh, you get close. Okay.
Demo.
What was the homework?
Yeah.
I have a hard time between this
Lay
paper
aside
and you.
filthiness.
Huh?
Lay aside filthiness.
It's such a muddy
Not
process.
and whatever that is, naughtiness. Lay aside all filthiness and wickedness, and receive the word with gratefulness. God ought to keep us busy till Tuesday.
Yeah.
I don't know,
Okay.
you'd be watching Jenna, so he probably,
The-
he's just roping.
Judy, what do you have
Keep on.
He's
pair of
just
pliers or
roping.
Yeah, isn't that usually
You need
it?
a pair of pliers?
No,
Well,
it's usually
the
out.
nut on the bottom of this is loose and it feels like it's going to fall over.
It's such a.
I tightened it before, but it's loose again.
Yeah.
I might have something in the car.
I'm going to go.
There's a drawer downstairs in the basement.
Too bad.
It says tools over there, that sink on that side. You might get there.
So we're starting on James
126.
twenty-six.
Let me see what you got. What part is not? Bottom?
I tried it last time, I just turned it back.
Oh, yeah.
Someone greased it right there.
Okay, let me go get something. I got something.
How are you doing?
Good morning. Good morning. How are you?
Hey, Max. Yes, yes,
We're
I did.
supposed to say just right, like Bill does.
Yesterday, today.
I don't think it's really.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Stay home.
How do I know,